Welcome to the Author to Authority podcast. And today, I'm excited for today's topic because I love talking about money. And so we have on today Dee Bowden, and she has founded BCS Solutions, which is a revenue recovery company, and we're going to talk about that today. From a personal desire to see businesses make big money impact. And she believes that small businesses fall prey to revenue loss because of poor accounting strategies. And that's why she's on a mission to help them grow their financial bottom line by sharing her 5-step program to revenue recovery. So welcome, Dee.
Hey, Kim. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to your fabulous audience around the world. Yes, I'm Dee Bowden with BCS Solutions, and it's an honor to be here today. I'm excited to talk about collect the cash, and we're going to get into why it's so important for you to collect the cash. Because here's what I know. The sale, no matter what you do in business, but the sale is not complete until the money's in the bank. And we'll get into why that's so important and how I got here. So I turn it back over to you, and let's go. Let's have some fun.
Awesome. And just before we get into that, don't forget to go check out the Author to Authority Facebook group, because not only do I put all the videos from the podcast there, but I also do a lot of teaching, a lot of training on writing your books, becoming an authority, how do you position yourself. We also have fun in the group. We do a lot of wordplay. So if you're a word nerd and you like puns, we always have a fun element to the group. So go to Author to Authority Facebook group, answer those couple of questions, and I would be happy to have you as part of our group. Now, Dee, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, Kim, I am originally from Boston, Massachusetts, so I am all things New England. So I am a huge football fan. My team is the New England Patriots. People love them or hate them, but that's my team. I come from a town inside of Boston called Dorchester, which actually, so the Boston has it's Boston proper. Then there are several cities that make up Boston. So I'm from one of the cities that makes up Boston. I spent my summers in a little town called Mount Olive, North Carolina, with my grandparents from as a baby until I was 18. So one of the things I'm most proud of is that I can say I actually knew my grandparents. Like I spent my summers with them, and so they were very instrumental in helping to help raise me. Helped me develop my faith, and showed me the examples of hard work, where they were two people that were married for over 50 years, and
wow,
they hung in there. They had their ups and downs like most people do, but they gave me a strong, they along with my parents, but they in particular gave me a strong foundation around hard work, faith in God, and not giving up when it's hard.
Cool.
Yep.
Cool. So tell us also a little bit about what led you in life to finding BCS Solutions.
Oh my, what a question. We just going in for it. She's like, what got you here? Okay. So all right. So here's the story. So so my background is this. I've been in contract administration and revenue recovery, receivables management for a little over 10 years. So the journey to BCS Solutions started like this. I used to work for a small IT firm called Amherst Technologies right outside of Boston, where I'm from. So I've always been in collections. So I love collections because collections is problem solving, and I like puzzles. And so the logo for my business is actually a puzzle piece. Kind of fits. So collections to me has always been about untangling the disconnects, figuring out how come you haven't gotten paid. To me, it's a puzzle, it's a problem. And I'm wired that if something isn't working, I'm the type that needs to get in and drill down and figure out how come it's not working. So back to the story. So Amherst Technology was a small IT firm outside of Boston in Merrimack, New Hampshire, not too far from where I'm from. They had $8 million worth of sales on the books, but not in the bank. True story. I was a collector. I worked part-time Monday through Friday, 4 to 8. So when I got hired, they're like, Dee, listen, we're going to give you this list of accounts that are overdue, and we need you to get to work and figure this out. So after a short prayer, I seriously went to work and said, okay, this is a lot of money. Now, the thing about it, I'm a small business owner, and we're talking to business owners. So I'm a small business owner looking looking at this now going, how do you have that much money on the books but not in the bank? So after doing some research, problem solving, got on the phone, made calls, and I was able to recover $6 million in 60 days while working part-time.
You are good, girl.
8 million on the books. That's sales on the books, but the money's not in the bank. I recovered $6 million in 60 days working part-time. And as phenomenal as that is, what brought me to BCS Solutions was this. The CEO of our company says, listen, I want to grab everybody downstairs. Let's have a chat. I've learned now chats are not necessarily the best things. There's something about this doesn't feel right. So anyway, we get downstairs. We have this group meeting, and he says, listen, I want to thank everybody for your service. I appreciate everybody who's worked really hard, from the sales team to the collections team to the billing team to contracts, everybody. But we've made an executive decision, and we are closing Amherst Technologies, and you have 30 minutes to get your stuff and vacate the building. Now, this is 2 months before Christmas. And so once I pick myself up off the floor, me and my everybody else, because that's from the CEO to the janitor, we all are like out of a job 2 months before Christmas. I realized after I recovered from that can happen to a small business or a large business anytime if you don't pay attention to your accounts. Like I said in the beginning of the story, the sales team had done really well. They made $8 million worth of sales, but the team and the collections team never spoke. So they were crushing it on the sales end, but the collections team has all this money that's outstanding, and they didn't collect it enough in time. And so by the time the executive decision was made, the company was closed, and I started BCS Solutions from what happened to me personally. I'm a small business owner, and my heart is for the small business owners who are chasing the next sale, chasing the next contract, chasing the next, whatever it is, and you're so focused on getting the next sale, but you're so focused on your front end that you're not managing your back end. And I truly this. The sale is not complete until the money's in the bank.
Amen.
It really is. The sale is not complete. Yeah, amen. Definitely. The sale is not complete until the money's in the bank. And you can get duped into thinking you're doing well because you have sales on paper, but the money's not in the bank. That's where I come in. And that's where BCS Solutions was founded. It was because of what happened to me personally as an employee. But now as a business owner, I'm more passionate about talking to small business owners, not just small, but business owners in general, but small because I work for a small company, to say, listen, please do well in your sales. Crush the sales. Absolutely. But don't get so hyped about the sale that you don't make sure that you deliver good service or a good product, number one. Number two, that you are checking in to make sure your sale actually went all the way through its process. Meaning you did the sale, you did the product and service, and you get paid. That's how come I have BCS Solutions today.
It's like, show me the money, honey. Show me the money.
Absolutely. Collect the cash is me. Collect the cash is it, because it's so easy to get off track. And right now, today, Kim, we got several companies like Payless Shoes, Charmin Charlie's, Arnie's, this huge corporation out of New York City. And there are a couple of others, but they've already closed. So Payless Shoes already closed this year. You got to think about it. Payless Shoes. Most people know Payless Shoes.
I was so upset. It's the only place I could find shoes in size 13 women's at a reasonable price.
Now look, right, and so look at it. So Payless Shoes goes out of business because they had sales with the vendors. They bought these shoes. They had contracts with the vendors to get the shoes. The vendors bill them and say, listen, I need to get paid for my shoes. And Payless comes back and says, like, I can't pay you. Now, there's probably more to the story than that. But I mean, for what I do in my business and why I'm so passionate about it, those are the four things that happen across the board. There's always a sale. There's a contract or an agreement, your bill, an invoice, and you get paid. Most people can understand this by the cell phone. Anybody who's listening to this around the world has a cell phone. You were sold a cell phone, no matter who your carrier is. You have a cell phone with them. You have a contract with them. How do I know this? Because you get an invoice, you get a bill every single month, and then you pay the bill. Or they got this magic button. If you don't pay them after a while, they can disconnect your service. We're trying to make sure in business that your services are not disconnected. And so money is such a big thing in business, but so is sales, but so is customer service, so is gratitude. These are the things that people kind of forget about. And I'm on a mission to, as often as I can, to share my story, but also tell people why I'm so passionate about this. But what more importantly is to raise the awareness around this thing I said from the beginning: the sale is not complete until the money's in the bank, which is basically collect your cash.
Mm. So true. One thing I was really thankful when I was in network marketing for a long time, but when I actually started my first non-network marketing business, I was really blessed because my mother-in-law had given me her business. And so she was so strong in the accounting and the money wise and all that. So she taught me incredibly well right from the very beginning, about how, to put these systems in place. And, when I started RTI Publishing, it took me a little bit to figure out the system that worked best for RTI Publishing, but because I was just so new and trying so many different things. But, now I have systems in place to ensure that, I'm getting paid and I'm getting paid in a timely fashion.
Exactly. Well, let me tell you something. Your mother blessed you tremendously and set you up for success, which is great. And on top of that, there are so many companies that don't. How can I say this? Well, I'll just say it. There are a lot of companies that won't invest in learning about the back office.
Mm-hmm.
They're everybody's pushing sales. I'm like, no, you got to learn all four. You got to understand the sale. You got to contract or the agreement. You got to understand invoicing, and you got to understand payments. Because if your cash flow is impacted, meaning you keep providing all these services and you're not getting paid, you eventually are going to have a shortfall.
Yes.
It impacts if you have, let's say you have employees. If you're not getting your cash flow in on a regular basis, you're not able to meet payroll. You can't invest. You can't advertise. There's a whole lot of things you can't do. And I think some people are afraid to have the conversation because they're like, well, I don't really want to be worried about that. Well, I don't say not be worried about it, but it needs to be a part of your whole successful business strategy. You have to sell. You need to have a contract that outlines what you're going to do for the product or service. You need the invoice, and you need to get paid. You can do other things, but those, in my lane, those are my four things. Those are my four pillars. You have to do those four to be successful. And if you don't know, you need to educate yourself. Whether you get a book, you go to the library, you go to a school and take a class. There's too much information out here today for you not to learn how to do this correctly. And we're in a space where if you're in any kind of group online, particularly on Facebook, you can raise your hand and say, listen, I don't understand this. And there are probably 3 to 5 people who will pretty much jump right in and say, what do you need? I can help you. Or I know somebody who can help you. That's the world we live in, which is great. So you're not really struggling unless you want to be.
Yeah. So true. The knowledge is there, and there's people that will gladly help you. You are so correct on that. So Dee, I know you came prepared with some strategic advice for us today. And I'm pretty sure you've already covered some of it, but I want you to get down a little bit. We've talked like high level. I want you to get down a little bit into the nitty gritty practical things that small businesses can do.
All right, well, sure. To me, collections is problem solving. That's kind of what I said before. And I believe 2 things. I believe collections is problem solving. I also believe it's an extension of customer service, and here's why. When you have to collect your money, I believe you got to have a mindset, a way of thinking about it. You got it. I believe you don't have to be looking at it like, oh gosh, I got to make this call. It's more like I need to follow up on the service that I provided or the product that I provided to my customer, and I want to find out. Like let's say for example, you had a product or a service that was for $10,000. Mm-hmm. It's 30 days past due, and you haven't gotten paid. Well, before you stress about, oh my gosh, I have to worry about this relationship, it's more like the mindset is like, hey, we had an agreement, we had a contract, I provided my service, they agreed to pay me. There's probably something that happened, i.e. the puzzle, the disconnect, the problem. What happened? versus, oh, I don't want to upset the customer. You're not going to upset the customer unless you go about it to me in a disrespectful manner. So number one, the first thing you ought to do as a small business owner, you ought to have a list of all of your accounts. I'm old school. I happen to use Excel. I love Excel. So I don't get paid for using Microsoft product, but it has to be my favorite choice. So number one, you ought to have a list of all of your accounts. Number two, you ought to have a list of your contract numbers or purchase order numbers or agreement numbers or whatever that is. Number three, you ought to have a column that lists your invoice numbers and how much you're billing for, like to your product. And number four, when's the money supposed to come in? And if you have a salesperson that helps you win that account, the name of that salesperson should be in there. And the reason I say that is this: no one lands most contracts on their own. There's usually somebody that helps you do this. And so if you track it from the contract number, the name of your customer, the amount of the contract, how much is awarded for, invoice date, invoice amount, salesperson, you have a steady stream, so you can plan. Okay, I just got this contract. We're delivering the service on this date. We're going to bill them on this date, and in approximately 30 days, we should be getting paid. If on the 31st day you notice you haven't received your money, you as a CEO, or if you have a team, you should be able to check in with them and say, hey, listen, I'm looking at over our accounts. We haven't gotten paid for this, and this. Who's on this? Then that collections person, which would be someone like me, is on the phone checking in to find out, did everything go well? Are there any problems? Did you happen to receive the invoice? Oh no, you know what? It got sent to a spam box. Okay, sorry. You know what? I must have data entered that wrong. What's the correct email? Send them that. Send them a copy of the email and confirm that they received it, and then ask them, okay, well, what's the process for this to be reviewed and approved for payment? And then note that so that you can keep track of it. A lot of collections is problem solving. It's research. It's tracking what happens. And so again, if you set it up, you got your columns. Or your contract amount that you bill, you aren't able to get through, you can get your salesperson to go help you collect that money. That's part of what I was sharing earlier in the story when I said that the salespeople for MS Technologies did really well on the front end, but the collections people never reached out to the salesperson and say, hey, listen, can you help me get this money? They never did that.
Okay. You actually cut out there for about 45 seconds.
Oh, no. Really? Rats. That was probably the best part of the story, too.
So maybe repeat about the last minute or so and we'll edit it.
Okay. So what I was saying was that for small businesses, tracking your accounts looks like this. So I said I use Excel. I use an Excel spreadsheet. I believe in column one, you ought to have the name of your customer. Column two, what was the contract or agreement number? Number three, the amount of the contract and what it was worth. Number four, your column. Number four would be how much you're supposed to invoice them every single month. And then number five, when is the money due? And then number six, if you have a salesperson, put their name on there, because he or she, if your team is to the point where you have salespeople are very important to your collections process, because if you, as say the CFO or CEO of your company, you can't reach out and get the money, you have a salesperson that helps you win that award. They can actually help you collect your money. I was tying that back to what happened with Amherst Technologies, the fact that I shared at the beginning of the story, that they had $8 million worth of sales on the books, but not in the bank. But the collections people never talked to the salesperson to say, hey, listen, can you help me figure out who I need to talk to get this money?
Yeah. Awesome. Now, something else I just was thinking of while you were speaking. Do you think many times, and I think probably maybe more as women, but do you think we're afraid to ask for money ahead of time, like having deposits put down and requesting, like regular payment, or maybe even setting up systems where like it's automatically charged to a credit card or a PayPal account, or, maybe talk a little bit about that, because I think, it's important that, that you make sure like cash flow has to start right from the beginning of the sale. Like you can't always wait till partway through and then hope that they're going to give you money.
Exactly. You know, that's a great question, Kim, and I'm glad you're asking that. So yes, do I believe that we have sometimes struggle with asking for money up front? Yes. Why? Part of it is what you were taught. And so if you plan to be, let me say this, if you are in business, you're in business to do one thing, and that's it. One thing only, make money. Now, gifts, your talents, your service, your product is the tool to do so, but you're only in business to do one thing, which is make money. And if you have any...
Either that or it's a hobby.
Pretty much, very much. And it can be an expensive one. So we're not trying to have you have an expensive hobby. We want you to be successful. But seriously, if you have mindset issues or thoughts about, oh my gosh, I don't want to ask them for money, then maybe, just maybe, you want to figure out why. Like, why are you afraid to ask for money for your business? Think about it like this. If you, most everybody who's probably listening to this around the world either has a job or had a job. And you, whenever you went into interview for your position, you had a set salary that you were expecting to make. And they usually ask you that uncomfortable question, well, how much you want, and this, that, and the other. And finally, some people finally go, you know what, I'm worth this. And they say it with confidence because they know the knowledge, the skills, and abilities that they bring to that company, and they want to get paid for those things. Well, in the same vein in your business, you have to know what you bring. What's your knowledge, what's your skill, what's your ability, what's the value you bring to the market, and you cannot be afraid to ask for it. Now, there's this thing called negotiation. Of course, you might be too high, too low, get in the middle, kind of like the Goldilocks and Three Bears. This one's too much, this one's too little. But seriously, my bad joke. But seriously, you have to figure out that if you are afraid to ask for money, then you're not going to be in business long, because without money in business, you won't have a business.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. So it all starts with the mindset.
It absolutely does. And I also think that some people struggle with that. And I don't, that's way past my knowledge on that thing. But I think this, if you find yourself struggling with money, you might have to take a few minutes, sit down with a piece of paper or your phone or whatever, and jot down, like, what do you really believe about money? Do you believe you deserve it? Do you believe you're worth getting paid well? Do you believe that your gifts and your talents and skills can make a difference in the marketplace? If you believe that, then don't you think you should get paid well for that? Mm-hmm. Now, getting paid well is all relative to what you do and what you bring. But nobody starts a business with the intent to go broke. Everybody starts a business because number one, they want to make money. Number two, they want to make a difference in the world. You got to find out, how do you make a difference in your lane, and then do that and do it well, and then get help along the way. And I'll say something else about that. Getting help along the way in your business is not a bad thing. It's not.
It has to be.
It's not a bad thing. Here's the thing. If you look at the people that we admire most, almost everybody that we admire most has or had or still has a coach.
Yep.
They got somebody in their ear that talks to them on a regular basis and helps them map out the next steps.
That's right.
And if you struggle in an area, I think asking for help, whether, I think I said it earlier, if you're in a Facebook community, you can make a post, you can put a question out there, and usually there are enough people that will ask you questions and that can say, hey, I can help you. And the thing is, you can't be afraid of what you don't know. I learned this a long time ago. None of us knows what all of us knows. The reason why community and collaboration is so important is because I have a strength in certain things. You, Kim, you have a strength in certain things. Together we're putting our strengths together, and we're making this podcast to share the best of who we both are, so that others can benefit and be successful. That's what this is all about. It's about making a difference.
You are so right there, Dee.
Thank you.
We're going to shift here because we've only got a few minutes left in the podcast. Okay. So you were part of a really amazing book called Entrepreneurial Elevation. So why don't you talk a little bit about your writing journey and how you contributed to that book, and where people could find it?
Sure. Well, so thanks to the visionary Cheryl Wood. Actually, I was a guest on her radio show back in January, and then she said, "Hey, I'm going to put together this anthology And I'd love for you to be a part of it because I don't have anybody that talks about cash flow and collections with such energy like you do. And I said, you know, great. So I got to tell my story about managing your accounts receivable as a small business owner. And I basically, the story that I've been sharing throughout the podcast is what I shared. And I talk about how you need to, you know, manage your cash flow. You need to set goals to collect your money. You need to write things down. You need to affirm it. And you need to believe that you can actually be successful in collecting your money and celebrate. I really believe that every time you collect your money, you ought to celebrate. You ought to raise a glass and be grateful because you got it done. So that journey started because of a conversation I had on as a guest on her radio show earlier this year, and then I was a chance to be a part of this, and now it became an Amazon bestseller, and that was an amazing feat in and of itself. For it's being my first time being a part of any type of anthology, and for it to get the stamp of approval from Amazon was pretty cool, and so that's how I got there.
Now, did you write a chapter?
I did write a chapter. Yeah, so I'm sorry, I forgot to say, there were 31 chapters in the book. And so my chapter was called How Secure is Your Cash Flow? Managing Your Accounts Receivable as a Small Business Owner. And I talk about why managing your accounts receivable is so important. Basically, in simple layman's terms, collecting your cash. Why as a small business owner, you always need to be making sure you're doing sales, but don't forget the sale is not complete until the money is in the bank, aka collect your cash.
Now, obviously this was a chapter, so it was a much smaller writing process, but did you find it was hard writing that chapter?
You know what? I did in this sense because I have, as you know, you can probably tell from my energy, I have a lot to say. And so I can definitely talk. I've never had a shortage, usually not at a shortage of words. So it was like when they said, look, we got this, man, you get to tell this story. And I think we had 750 words. I think it was something like that. It was short. I'm like, are you serious? Like, yes, you got to be short and concise. And so I had to go through a couple of drafts to get it to the point where, number one, it fit the requirements of the book, and number two, that it would still be impactful, make a difference, and obviously where people would say, I want to learn more. And that was the goal of it. It wasn't to dominate. It was to basically to be a part of the entrepreneurial journey. There were so many lessons in there. Like I said, there were 31 of us. And so everybody had a different lesson. Mine just happened to be on managing cash flow. So it was to make my point, be clear, be funny, and then say, listen, if you get stuck in this area, here are some tools, and then down the line, you can reach out to me for additional help.
I have a feeling you and I are going to get along really well.
I already know. Look, we're already friends. I'm gonna claim it right now. We're already friends. Done.
So Dee, tell my listeners, how can they connect with you?
Oh, sure, Kim, I would love to. So listen, guys, it's been my honor and pleasure to be on this podcast today. I'm super excited. Kim, again, thank you for your generosity and chance to share a little bit about me and my story in BCS Solutions. So whole thing, social media. I'm on Facebook. It's Dee Bowden. On also BCS Solutions, or BSOL. It's facebook.bsccol. So SOL, excuse me. So that's Facebook. Instagram, it's Instagram at Bowden D. LinkedIn, it's Dee Bowden. And then the website is www.bcsconsultinggrp.com. That's www.bcsconsultinggrp.com. And because it's the holidays, I have a phenomenal free gift for your listening audience. It's an ebook called Collect the Cash, and it's basically 5 steps to how to successfully collect your cash as a business owner. So if you reach out to me on Facebook with your email address, I'll send it to you there. So it's again called Collect the Cash. So Facebook, it's Dee Bowden. Instagram, it's Bowden D. The website, www.bcsconsultinggrp.com. And I think I got everything. So Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, me. Cheers.
Awesome. And as well, we will have the direct links in the show notes. So wherever you're watching this from or seeing it posted, we'll make sure that you can connect with Dee. Well, what an amazing time we've had today. Thank you so much, Dee, for sharing such wonderful wisdom with us. You know, sometimes we we hear the words accounting and accounts receivable, and we think of dull, dry, boring things. But you have really brought it to life today. And
Oh, thank you.
I think it's something that's so important, especially as entrepreneurs. It's an area where we tend to forget. As an entrepreneur, especially when you're the top person and you've got to run all these things, it's easy to let everything else overrule and not keep track of those things. So thank you so much, Dee.
Absolutely.
And the Author to Authority podcast, and we'll see you on the next episode.
All right, y'all. Take care. Cheers.